Hello, this is reporter Julie Spencer, and I'd like to welcome you to Newsline, Iowa City. Please join me today at a rally in downtown Iowa City featuring UI law professor and political activist Nicholas Johnson, talking about the National Security Agency and its policies which allow it to spy on U.S. citizens. Can you tell me your name and where you're from?
I'm Andrew Austin. I'm from Iowa City.
And can you tell me, how do you feel about the NSA and their policies to investigate the private lives of U.S. citizens?
Well, I think it's completely unconstitutional, and beyond that, I think it is an infringement of privacy rights of every human being on Earth, not just American citizens. It's also a dangerous precedent to be setting to allow the government to have this kind of access to data and to access it without any kind of review. They'll be able to retroactively use this data to prosecute people potentially who become liabilities in the future.
Can you tell me your name and where you're from?
My name is Rachel Erickson, and I just moved to Iowa City.
Okay. And can you tell me, how do you feel about the NSA's policies to investigate the private lives of U.S. citizens?
I feel betrayed, and I think that living here as a United States citizen, we should be able to have our rights that we're promised, and it's not fair that they can look through all of our stuff without asking us or getting permission.
Can you tell me your name and where you're from?
My name is Greg Thompson. I'm from Iowa City, and I'm here today to support the Fourth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. I'll also like to say that I'm proud to fly the Iowa flag, which says our liberties we prize and our rights we will maintain. And I'd like to read you the Fourth Amendment, search and arrest warrants. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. But now they've grabbed everything, our phone calls, our emails, our Facebook, so love notes to our girlfriends and all that crap. So it's time to stand up, put an end to it, demand that we restore the Constitution and prosecute those who have failed to uphold the Constitution.
It's been 64 years since his classic novel, 1984, was published in 1949. George Orwell was an optimist. That used to be a humorous line, but right now it's a terrifying reality. As a law professor, I'm used to speaking for entire semesters at a time, but Alexei said he wanted a 20-minute short course. That's a tough assignment given the range of issues that we have to deal with. You see, the NSA surveillance of the American people today is the electronic equivalent of one of the grievances that drove our founding fathers to the revolution we commemorate every July 4th. Those British general search warrants. The NSA is engaged in the unreasonable search of all of us without even a suspicion we have done anything wrong, let alone probable cause, without specifying where they will look or what they are looking for. An ever-increasing number of American citizens, now nearly 50%, believe that government surveillance has gone too far. It has proven very difficult for the public, the media, even our elected officials, as Glenn Greenwald revealed this morning in The Guardian, to find out basic facts about NSA surveillance. As New Mexico Senator Tom Udall has observed, it is very, very difficult, I think, to have a transparent debate about secret programs approved by a secret court, issuing secret court orders based on secret interpretations of the law. And our task has been made even more difficult by intelligence officials' willingness to flat out lie. When asked by Senator Ron Wyden whether the government was collecting the metadata from citizens' phone calls, the Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper, replied simply, no. What the government is doing to American citizens in the name of protecting us from terrorism is wildly overreaching. Since 9/11, the overwhelming percentage of deaths from terrorists has been inflicted on our uninvited military personnel in foreign countries, where our presence has both increased recruitment of terrorists abroad while saving terrorists the cost of airline fare to America. Even if you don't care about personal privacy, consider the money and personnel devoted to surveillance of American citizens. Those costs are clearly grossly disproportionate to any benefits. If the government was truly concerned about the preventable deaths of Americans, the trillions spent fighting wars abroad and conducting surveillance at home could have saved far more lives if spent on other programs. Given the grossly disproportionate and ineffective expenditure on surveillance, rationalized as a life-saving effort, one need not be paranoid to wonder what the government's real motives might be for spying on us. It may be true there is high global risk this weekend of a massive Al-Qaeda attack, but it's not unreasonable to wonder if the warnings are also efforts to support NSA surveillance. The NSA has gone from a constitutional, specific search warrant for one person to the electronic equivalent of the old British general search warrant. Because the NSA has the technology that makes it possible, it wants to be able to search every American simultaneously and retain what they find. Moreover, many who voted for the act believe they did not authorize what the NSA is doing. But assume it is legal. The issue is not whether the law was passed by Congress. The issue is whether it and what is done in its name is constitutional. We're still left with the question of, is it right? Is it moral? Is it how we want to live? As Dr. Martin Luther King has reminded us, quote, we should never forget that everything Adolf Hitler did in Germany was, quote, legal. What should we do? One, citizens must take a stand. The first thing we need to do is what you've already done by showing up today, following in the footsteps of America's colonists in the 1770s. When the people will lead, their leaders will follow, especially with a cautious Congress as election-focused and dysfunctional as ours. You and I are going to have to step up and take the lead on this. Two, legislators, judges, and lawyers must refashion our law of privacy. We have two related problems. One, in a world of ubiquitous surveillance, video cameras, mail covers, collection of phone metadata, and comparable intrusions on privacy, does a reasonable expectation of privacy, that's our current legal standard. Two, the courts have said that when you give information to a third party, such as a bank or phone company or internet service provider, you thereby lose any expectation of privacy. This is the legal argument of the businesses that are collecting information about our lives, and the government agencies that then retrieve it from them. Information that would not be constitutionally available to the government without the company's participation. It is my opinion that both problems, this ubiquitous surveillance and third-party transactions, require rethinking in this high-tech age. If you give your private information to a newspaper or television reporter who makes no promises, you can't complain when it appears in the paper or on television. On the other hand, we do protect the privacy of the information you give to your doctor or lawyer or cleric. Today there needs to be a third category. Credit card data may not be entitled to the protection of medical records, but it deserves more than what you give to a newspaper reporter. It is reasonable to demand a level of trust in business relationships, a level of trust in relationships that are necessities in our economy, such as banking and phones. We are not gratuitously handing them private information. We must do so in order to have their service. It is given to them for a specific and limited purpose. Certainly, the government should not be entitled to corporate records that would have violated customers' constitutional rights if taken directly from the person whose records they are. 3, government surveillance of American citizens should be conducted in accord with the requirements of the Fourth Amendment. One would hope you wouldn't have to even mention that on an occasion such as this, but it's now in contention. Could the government find more potential terrorists if its computers constantly monitored the phone conversations of 300 million Americans? Probably. It could find even more if FBI agents could conduct unannounced searches of 100 million American residents whenever they chose. But as the Fourth Amendment's history reveals, it is a specific response to the general search warrants of its time that take the form of NSA surveillance today. To paraphrase the old saying about gravity, protection from unreasonable government surveillance is not just a good idea, it's the law. In this case, constitutional law. Does protecting our rights to privacy mean that some criminals and terrorists will be more difficult to catch? Yes, that's the trade-off. But it's a trade-off our nation's founders made for us and considered a more than reasonable price to pay for our rights to privacy. 4th, we need a procedure to protect whistleblowers dealing with classified information. Whether you consider Edward Snowden a hero or a traitor, the fact is that he has enabled a national deliberation even the president acknowledged is necessary. What has followed in the form of media investigations, reporting, and opinion pieces, congressional hearings, legislation, and modestly more NSA transparency has created a better informed public. We have laws protecting whistleblowers from retribution for revelations of conventional government wrongdoing, revelations of wrongdoing in secret classified programs, possibly unconstitutional, are, if anything, even more necessary and valuable in a democratic society than revelations of garden variety unclassified mischief. Of course, we can't let everyone with a top secret clearance reveal whatever classified information they choose. But we can provide them more alternatives than 1, ongoing complicity in classified programs they believe to be unconstitutional, or 2, leaving the country because they're confronting the risk of life imprisonment after being charged with espionage or the treason of, quote, aiding the enemy. There are many possibilities. One would be to permit whistleblowers confidential revelations of concerns to any member of Congress of their choosing. Bottom line, you and I have much work to do, starting with our standing together here today in Iowa City, and I thank you for this opportunity to participate in your event.